Hello again. I just want to welcome every single person that is joining in, checking in with you. How are you today? And welcome back for another Limitless conversation. We are here again with the beautiful Casey Olivia, and we are going to be talking today about harnessing divine harmony in correlation with the upcoming October 2nd new moon in Libra solar eclipse.
Ashe, big energy, big energy.
Yeah. Giving thanks. So that will be occurring at 2:49 p.m. EST and AST for those of you
Mm.
who are curious about it. And we'll just share a little bit about this new moon. See if you would like to share a little bit on that. Yes.
So, our beautiful new moon is in the sign of Libra, which is all about the energies of harmony, of balance, if you will, of the word cosmic symmetry is coming to my spirit, so I'm just going to say it. But the energy really illuminates relationships. So, relationship with self, relationship with others, and really showing up in ways that you can be your full self and pour your full self into the relationship, but also receive that energy poured back into you. We also have the amplified energy of the eclipse, which admittedly I do need to do a little bit more deep dive of research as to how this energy amplifies the energy of the new moon. Um, and so I invite us all in this moment or after this conversation to do a little digging within ourselves to see how this eclipse
Oh, okay.
resonates with us.
Okay.
I don't know. His spirit's like, yeah, you did a great job in inviting everyone. Do your own research. Do your own research. Um, but we do know what we do know is that this is a powerful eclipse that will have lasting effects for likely the next 6 months to year ahead. So whatever does come up in our individual research about the moon, just keep in mind that you want to commit to dancing long term with this energy instead of it being like, okay, new moon, and then there's going to be another one. And so, yes, that's what I have to offer about the new moon, handing it back to you. Beautiful soul, Allie.
Yeah, I just would like to add on that
Mm-hmm.
with my own personal research so far, it's been really about also adding to the relationships. How are you leading yourself right now?
Mm,
It's about leadership, because with the scales and the balance, it's also learning to live in that duality of yourself
mm.
and the world
Yes.
around you. So that was something that came up was leadership and also value, like your value of yourself and your value
Mm,
in exchanging, like what do you value? What are your values? What are your beliefs?
mm-hmm.
And how does that pour into your material values, your like what is important to you and like how does that show up in your life? So it could be around finances as well, like receiving and giving is a big thing
Mm,
that comes up of like worthiness, like am I worthy to receive? Am I worthy to give this? Like, am
mm,
I capable of this big dream that I'm living that I want to come into
mm,
fruition. Yeah, so that's something that comes to mind. And also with the solar eclipse in effect, what is a solar eclipse, y'all? For those of you who don't know,
mm-hmm.
a solar eclipse occurs when the moon phases between the earth and the sun, and
Mm-hmm.
thereby obscuring the view of the sun from a small part of the earth. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so the moon is in between. So even though this is a new moon, and new moons are the darkest phase of
Mm-hmm.
the moon, cycle with that solar eclipse, like you will be seeing that sun behind the darkness. So it's that reminder as well that it's going to be still illuminating that shadow, right?
Mm, mm,
Shadow. Um, kind of, oh yes, and something as well of like acceptance of the shadow and
Ashe.
how does like this light within us, even though we are
Mm-hmm.
light and darkness and yin and yang energy, like how can we accept that those parts of ourselves that this new moon is wanting to highlight, right?
Ashe.
Typically shadow work is done during the full moon with releasing what no longer needs to be. But I feel
Mm-hmm.
like with this new moon energy, it's really calling us to be aware, to bring about awareness of that which is no longer serving us, but also how can we give more love to those parts of ourselves that are not so favorable, right? Like
Mm,
maybe things within us that we're trying to run from, or like trying
mm-hmm.
to just push to the side, be like, okay, yeah, like I know that, but like maybe it's a habit that needs to be practiced that we're
Mm,
not willing to, and like that we're not consciously doing that can help heal heal us. Okay, so that's what's coming. Yeah,
Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Thank you so much for
that's
sharing. Can you see me? Can you hear
of
me?
that, working with that shadow self and be able to, it's okay, let's move forward, it's okay, I love you still, forgiveness, you know.
Mm, Wonderful.
Hello.
Yes, I'm here. You cut out for a little bit. All right. She dropped out just for a moment, but I'm sure she will be hopping back in. Beautiful Soul Alley, we give thanks for that wonderful, robust insight on the new moon as well as ooh, the solar eclipse. We're calling Ali back in to the Zoom.
Oh,
Okay, we're
okay.
back.
Hello. Okay, again, I just want to thank you guys. We had a little pause, but now we're back.
Yes, we are back.
And that's the beauty of technology,
Oh,
learning
sure.
learning how to expect the unexpected and be able to bounce back from the curveballs that life
Ashe,
sends.
Ashe. I do want to add that perhaps the message that Ali just shared is so strong and so potent and so relevant that the enemy did not want you to hear it. And so if you're watching this I would say pull it back to what Ali is saying because it was important to be said, it was important to receive, and we
Mhm.
don't want to let any interference get in the way of the message. So pull it back, run it back, and we'll meet you back here. Wonderful.
I do need to pause for 1 second.
Okay.
To pause that for 1 second. I need to let this
Okay.
pass. Hello. Okay, so here we are, y'all. Continuing from that note, yes, like Casey said, I do believe that energy, like also spirit, knows when we need to digest and knows when we need to take a pause to really
Mm-hmm.
let things sit in with our spirits. So I was
Mm,
having a conversation the other day as well, like it's about COVID and how important it was for us as humans to slow down.
mm. Yes.
And now it's post-COVID and we are going in this life of like go, go, go again. It's kind of going
Mm,
back to what it was. I mean, some people are getting back to the office 9 to 5 and getting burnt out again.
mm-hmm.
So if that's you right now, it's okay to take a moment to slow down.
Mm. Sure.
Today, today's a holiday in Trinidad, and I give
Mm,
thanks. And I'm like, feeling like I woke up and I was like, oh gosh, like today is a holiday. Like, what are we doing? Like,
right.
my brain goes to like, let's go out. And then I was like, no, Aliana, you need rest. You
Mm-hmm.
need to sleep, and it's okay to
Yes.
just chill out, you
Yes.
know?
Absolutely.
So, saying that to say, y'all, how are we harnessing divine harmony in our
Mm, mm,
and before Casey and I were recording this, we were deep diving into the questions that we usually um ask one another to help you guys have some more curiosity. And I personally suggested, like Spirit put on my heart to share the definition of harmony
mhm,
because harmony is different to each person and it's
mhm,
very by the definition of Oxford Dictionary, though, the definition of harmony means number one, the combination of simultaneously sounded musical notes to produce a pleasing effect. So it's like
mhm,
what is your vibration giving off, right? Like when we listen to song and sound healing therapy, like that is
mm,
creating harmony in our body. That's a harmony that is resonating with our spirits.
mm,
So just a note of what is that song, that symphony that you're playing in your life. Number two, the quality of forming and a pleasing and consistent whole.
mm.
Hmm. And I would let Casey expand on that one.
So that to me, I appreciate that definition. Um, and I appreciate it because it emphasizes that there are many parts to a whole. There are many parts to, and if we, you know, turn that definition to define ourselves, there are many parts that need attention. There are many parts of us that need love. And so, being mindful of keeping those parts of us in mind so that we can come to a place where we are this consistent whole, so to speak. Especially as we talk about harnessing that harmony, recognizing that harmony cannot exist if there are still parts of ourselves that we are not paying attention to, whether they be light or dark. And that's touching on the point, the shadow work and the shadow self that Ali touched on earlier in our conversation. And so, yeah, that's what that evokes for me. Just keeping in mind that, yes, we are one person, we are a human being that is in this singular vessel, but there are so many aspects and so many elements of us that need our attention, need our love, need our care. And by doing that, we can then harness this harmony within ourselves.
I think about as well as you say that the like so many
Mm,
different parts of us. I think about
mm,
the physical, just the physical alone. Like God
mm,
didn't give us one eye. He
mm.
gave us two. God didn't give us two noses, but we have two nostrils.
Right.
Like everything about the human body is very symmetrical.
Mm.
The cats fighting in the background. Um, we have two cats over here, like a male and a
Mhm.
female, duality of Libra. So, going back to that, yeah, like everything in your body creates this whole body, like the external and the internal, right? So it's like being able to
Mhm.
go back to that idea again of harnessing the harmony.
Mm.
Are you hearing that? By the way?
Mm-mm.
Okay,
I'm
they're
not.
like they're like fully fighting. They're like, and I'm like, oh my
Uh,
gosh, now it's happening out here. Hey, take it outside. Sorry.
it's all good. It's real life. Sometimes
It's really
cats fight.
happening out here. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's like both of sorry, jokingly. They were both outside just now, but no, they want to bring
Mhm.
Al inside. They're
Right
like,
inside.
so okay, going back to like our first question, y'all, as we transition,
Mm.
is can you share, Casey, a moment
Mm.
when you really felt that you were living in divine harmony?
Mm. Mm. So I would actually identify the phase of life that I am in now. You are blessed. The phase of life that I am in now as the phase that I am best equipped and most empowered to harness divine harmony in my life. And I say that because Spirit has taken me on such a beautiful ride this 2024 calendar year in ushering me through lessons of slowing down, just as you mentioned earlier, like in having that conversation about COVID and acknowledging that it was so wonderful to most, or depending on how you see it, it was so wonderful to slow down. It was so wonderful to take a moment to pause because Spirit knew that on a global scale, so to speak, humanity needed to slow down, right? And I feel like that I'm experiencing a personal calling to slow down within myself, because I think what's important to note is, as we share the definitions of harmony, you know, it takes attention to figure out what parts there are in the whole. It takes you to not be distracted by the everyday hustle and bustle of life for you to notice all of the different parts that make up your wholeness, your divine wholeness, right? And so slowing down, I believe, is a precursor to harnessing divine harmony. And I'm not saying you have to live this slow life. I mean, I would love for everybody to tap into that, because I believe that is available to all of us if we seek it. However, I am calling us to find pockets where we can slow down in our days. And so, circling back to myself, this slower pace has allowed me to tap further, dive deeper, sink deeper into my intuition. It has allowed me to be curious with my intuition, be curious with what my body is telling me so that I can take action to bring more harmony. Perhaps it's, oh, my hip is hurting, or perhaps it's, I don't really feel stillness in my mind today. But being able to slow down, to focus or notice these things, to then take, intelligent action is what is bringing me divine harmony in this phase of my life. Yeah.
And just so people
Mm.
can like know where you're tuning in from, because that came into my mind.
Mm.
Sharing where you're tuning in from would be a
Mm.
share.
I am in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada right now. So I am on the west coast of Canada. Um, and this is my first time here, and just the pace of the community itself is slower. It's a smaller population than that of Ontario, of course. And just the way of living is a lot slower. Their values are the community here clearly values nature. They clearly value family, and they clearly value a slower pace that works for them. And so that's where I'm tuning in from, and I'm like absorbing all of the energetic benefits of this space, this environment, this place, and this time.
How divine. And I want to
Ashe.
also bring to I want to bring to attention, like you've been traveling quite a bit this year, and I feel like
Yes.
last year that was what I was experiencing. So
Mm.
in that, like, when around you is like your lifestyle may not be like what
Mm-hmm.
people, this is harmony, like, like stable,
Mm-hmm.
grounded. Like, how do you use that? Like, how do you feel like that's an example of you living in divine harmony? Because that could be
Mm.
considered like by the regular person, like that seems unstable. Like you're just going from place to
Yes,
place. Like, what?
yes, 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 yes. That's a great question. Thank you
You
for
are.
asking.
Hmm.
Thank you for asking. Yeah, so that is something. So let me rephrase. Grounding myself as I go from place to place is a practice that I have been called to build as I travel more. Obviously, I can't learn this lesson if I don't have the life experience of the travel, right? So it's something that I'm growing with, it's something that I'm dancing with, harnessing divine harmony while traveling. And one thing that I can identify that is slowly being transformed is my post travel wind down. You know,
Mm.
when I get back or when I get to a place, what am I doing to shake off the energy of the commute, of the travel? What am I doing to ground myself in, okay, I'm in a new place, in a new environment. How am I taking autonomy and calling in and commanding the time that I need to integrate and to reset? And so I'm really looking at traveling from place to place as a challenge for me to remain grounded and to prioritize that harmony. And I think now more so than ever, because when you're stable, you could take um, you could take advantage of the fact that you're stable and not allow yourself to dig a little bit deeper to really cultivate that inner harmony, that inner balance, right? But when your environment is all over the place, you're almost forced, or what I like to call invited, to learn more about how you can energetically say, whoa, 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 things are changing around me, and I'm not going to allow that to shift me from my core. So what do I need so that I'm anchored and grounded and rooted? And it's easier said than done. It's so much easier said than done, particularly as empaths and as sensitive souls who are quite sensitive to energy shifts and energies that come to and fro. But I deal with a God that lives in the impossible. So I know it's not impossible for any of us to push through, lean in, dig a little bit deeper, and be aware, be aware of our desire for that inner harmony, for that divine harmony, and
I like
declare it as a priority. My apologies for interrupting, but to finish, declare that divine harmony as a priority in our minds and our hearts so that when opportunity arises, we can lean into that desire, lean into that as a priority. Go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to emphasize the
Mm,
point that you made about the inner work, right? Like even when we're in a
mm,
like you're in a stable environment, oftentimes we can get very comfortable, and like we could get in a comfort
complacent.
of like, okay, yeah, this is my everyday. I know what I'm
Mm-hmm,
doing. Create that routine, right? And
mm-hmm.
in coaching,
Autopilot.
exactly, in coaching, in um Atomic Habits, for example, it talks about
Mm,
creating these habits so that when like why do we create habits? It's so that our brain, when it's really for problem solving, right? To
mm,
make solving easier. However, I want to take those like that perspective of looking at habits like I need to have a routine. I need to have like the same thing at the same time every day because
mm,
as a person like yourself who's a very multifaceted person, I've been traveling different places. I never felt like I had that, right? I never had that. And what going back to what you said, when it's going within and
mm-hmm,
knowing what works for you, what grounds you.
mm,
Like for example, I I'm in different environments right now, even like back and forth between different places. And the thing that grounds me right now is going outside, going in nature,
mm,
taking a walk, just taking a really simple walk around the neighborhood.
mm,
I live by the sea. So like going by the sea, whether it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and like that alone. It doesn't have to be a long period of time, but the cues of like my body knows, okay, when I'm in this environment, I'm safe. I'm grounded.
mm,
As soon as I start doing this action, like I start to dance, I start to move my body, even if we took, for example, 10 minutes to stretch. 10 minutes of stretching, y'all, is a reset
mm,
for your body in that moment
mm,
of chaos. The word chaos comes to mind, and
mm,
harnessing divine harmony is like, how do you live in harmony within the chaos of everything that's going around in
mm,
your right? The external, for example, I know a lot of people have financial strains, right? Like financial things. Like I had a situation where I realized, okay, two people can be in the same situation,
mm-hmm,
right? like not make it like in that fight or flight because they're in survival mode. And one person can be like, this is, oh my God, like this is it, like I can't. And I know I've been there. I know I've been there.
Mm,
But then there's the other spectrum of like you can be in that same situation and you can be so grateful. You
mm-hmm,
can be so full of life and so full of joy because wow, like thank God I have this amount today. Thank God I was
mm-hmm,
able to wake up. Like, I think about um in the like what is considered like they call it in Jamaica uptown and downtown, right? So they call it
okay,
that classes. I'm going into a little bit of classism and growing up in the Caribbean. And I
mm,
realized that the people who have the most materialistically,
mm,
when you have more, there is more that's needed to pay for, more that like that
mm.
lifestyle, right?
Responsibilities.
Responsibilities. And sometimes people, it doesn't mean that they're joyful. It doesn't mean that they're
Mm,
happy.
mm,
And the people that I've met along the way that have less, and when they achieve more, they're just like, wow, didn't even know this could have been possible. Like,
mm.
wow. And they're so full of joy, so full of excitement. And it's a great perspective when it comes to harnessing divine harmony.
Ashe,
Those people are full of joy, and to me that is divine,
ashe.
right? And harmony within themselves. Like this, they know themselves, they're so
Mm-hmm,
grounded in themselves, so
mm-hmm,
humble,
mm-hmm,
whereas and I'm like, I'm just talking in my experience of life, like everybody has their own experience. I can't speak for anybody else, but that's just what I've noticed. And to me, that is living in divine harmony, like where you make the most of out of a situation that could be considered to one person as, oh my gosh, like I feel so sorry for you. And that person's like,
mm,
why are you sorry? Like I'm so happy. Like, thank God
mm,
for this opportunity. Thank God for this day. Like, just
mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm going on a
Mm-hmm.
tangent.
No,
But
your tangent is so beautiful, and I thank you so much for sharing that example. I think the key point to one of the key points to recognize is that divine harmony comes from a particular perspective,
yes.
because you illustrated that two people can be in similar circumstances, similar stressors, but your perspective is what determines whether or not this is a chaotic experience or a harmonious experience, because really, what's happening in your inner world is reflected in your outer world. And so you can have very little and still be abundant, and you can have very much and be lacking, you
And
know?
I'm not saying to anybody like don't take on responsibilities. Like don't like I'm
Of
not
course
saying
not. Of
to
course
ignore
not.
them. However, I know with finances, like we live in a world that did not prepare us.
Mm,
We live in a
a
world
society, yeah.
that a society that typically on the math, like you are learning how to it's some people are just luckier than others to know how to deal with their
Mm. Yeah, that's an intelligence that is not widely taught. You're absolutely right. And I do want to make the distinction. The world is abundant. Our
very
nature is abundant. Society is the entity that did not prepare us for whatever reason, for whatever motives, did not prepare the uh, all of us, because some people, just as you said, have access to that financial literacy and that financial understanding through whatever means, through whatever reason. Um, but our society does not value everyone having that financial intelligence, that financial literacy. And that's curious. That's very curious to me. Why doesn't society want us to know how to manage our finances and manage the energy of money? Very curious.
yeah, and that's another thing. I feel like
Mm,
abundant. Like
mm.
sometimes people can be so boggled down by mistakes that they've made, and it's like, well, we're floating on a rock, like
Yes.
who said that even exists really? Like I'm just giving a perspective. Like we can die
Right.
tomorrow. And does
Yes, God
that
forbid.
so much like that amount of debt matter in that moment when you're about to leave the earth? No. But
Yeah.
I actually like this world that we live in, the structures are crumbling for sure. And I want
Ashe.
anybody into this that may be in a situation, because I know I personally know what it's like. Casey's been there as well, where we have functioned from a lack mindset, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not it's you standing up and being like, I am worthy, I am
Amen.
abundant, deserve I deserve
Amen.
more. I
Mm-hmm.
deserve more than this. And
Mm-hmm.
I kid you not, gratitude is a
Mm-hmm.
gift, so use
Ashe.
it.
Ashe. 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 It might be challenging, but it is a tool in which you can wield.
Temporary. Yeah, whatever
Mm-hmm.
situation I'm in right now, it is temporary. And
Ashe.
unless you make it permanent in here,
Ashe.
it's gonna change. Change is constant.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Ashe. Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I know we're at
Mm-hmm.
38 minutes at the moment. I just want to pause
Mm-hmm.
and check in with you, how you're
Mm-hmm.
feeling. Do we make this a part two? Do we continue?
Mm. Mm-hmm. You know what's interesting is I was thinking about it in the back of my head, and since we have four questions to discuss, I was thinking after the second question, we can then move on to part two.
Okay, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. So
yeah. Because we
if
did
you
have the like technical difficulties in between, so it's not
started
technically 30 minutes.
digital, so
Yeah.
I just want to give thanks with that
Sure.
gratitude for your presence. If you're still listening in and you've reached this far, you're here
Mm.
for a reason.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
if you need, leave the rest, but you are meant to be here. We are connected. And I just want to say, I love you. God bless you.
Mm.
And may you
Sure.
continue to reach your highest potential as you
Sure.
continue to do work by listening to conversations like this. You are growing, you are planting seeds in your spirit, in your heart. And if you're already like past this, then great. Please continue to share your
Sure.
experience with those who can benefit from it.
Sure.
Yes. And to say question number two,
Mm.
can we cultivate deeper, more meaningful relationships with ourselves and others?
Hmm. You know, I'm gonna let you answer that one first because I
Okay.
don't know if I got the answer. I don't think you answered the first question, so I'm gonna let you answer that one first.
Really? Yeah, I feel like I
Yeah.
did answer the first question. Oh, my experience of living in divine harmony is
Mm,
basically being able to experience that I may be dealt with similar situations, but
mm,
I'm reacting differently to it versus how I used
Ashe,
to. And that
Ashe,
to me is living in harmony when I know that I'm seated in my self and my purpose, and to the outside world, letting go of fear of judgment, fear of
Ashe.
people's opinions, and to the external, my choices may not make sense, and
Mm,
my choices are mine, right, to hold.
Ashe,
And I think being able to accept that and accept the consequences, accept the outcome of whatever I choose, I think that's a big thing living in divine harmony for me personally. And being able to know that, like, for example, heartbreak. Like it was on my mind last night thinking of heartbreak, and sometimes heartbreak comes in grief and loss. Like it is a big spiritual awakening for some.
mm,
And just knowing that when you let go of something, you make space for something greater to come.
mm,
And you give thanks for whatever that taught you. And to
Ashe.
me, that is living in divine harmony for myself, because I think I look back on my life and I've gone through some serious choices where in the past, younger Aliana could have been like living in chaos.
Mm,
However, now she's choosing, same like you, like as the years go by, I feel like it's more divine harmony because I feel at peace. I don't know
mm,
about you, but I feel joy and peace when I feel
Ashe.
that, despite whatever comes up each day. Like it may be a moment of sadness, a moment of chaos, a moment of confusion, but I know that in the end of it, like what am I prioritizing? And what am I
Mm.
doing to give myself that love that I deserve, that I need, that knowing that nobody else can give it to me.
Yes. Yes. For sure. For
So I
sure.
think going to the next question of cultivating deeper, more meaningful relationships with myself and others, it's like as I move to new places every time, I make a really a meaningful connection sometimes, and sometimes I feel really, really lost and really
Mm.
like even though
Mm.
there's love surrounding me, I could feel very lonely. So to
Mm.
me, it's what I just said, that I need to make that connection with myself before I can make connections with others. And
Mm.
how do I do that? By what I said, the simple things of spending quality time with myself. Like the other day, I had the opportunity, like I could go out to this club, right, to go dancing. But I was just like, you know what? No, like I let them go for like the person I was going with. I was like, you can go, I'll stay back, I'll chill. And that moment, it was only an hour and a half, but that hour and a half I spent with myself, I got so much intuitive downloads. I got so
Mm.
much clarity. I was like, wow, like I listen to myself. And I think it's
Mm.
listening to your intuition and listening to that voice of like, we always have that voice in our head just telling us, like, there's the doubt. There's two voices. There's the
Mm.
judge, and there's the, what's it called in positive intelligence?
The
Uh,
sage, the
the
saboteur, and the sage.
avatar on the stage. And those things really do exist. So it's like,
Mm.
and I think my biggest takeaway from positive intelligence as well was that it's never about them. It's always about yourself. Like in
Mm.
terms of not taking things, going back to like um anything personally, because really it's just that person's own experience. And sometimes when it's like, oh my God, this person really hurt me, it's being able to check yourself and like, did they hurt you? Or are you just feeling that like is their actions making you feel like that? Like, is that really
Mm.
them?
Mm.
Or is it just the action or the words? And then you have to go within yourself and be like, how can I control my emotions, and how can I get back into a place of sage, a place of grounding, a place of peace and joy, based on knowing that that person may be operating in a saboteur or a fair,
Mm. Mm.
right? Because we all know,
Absolutely.
like we all know when it feels like love, and we all know when it feels like this is where's this coming from, right?
Mm.
So cultivating deeper, more meaningful relationships with self and others is being able to love without attachments.
Mm. Mm. Thank you. Which is easier said than done. I want to validate all those. Yeah, I want to validate every one of us who's just like, well, how the heck do we get there, you know? Um, and I
Just
really thank you for your, pardon?
that it is difficult.
Yes,
It is
yes, yes. Yeah, I give thanks for your answer because a lot of some things that you shared came up for me when I was thinking about this question for myself, you know, and I'll ask you to repeat the question in full just one more time for me,
how can
please.
we cultivate deeper, more meaningful relationships with self and others?
Mm. Deeper, more meaningful relationships with self and others. And what came up for me was checking in with yourself and asking yourself if that is what you value.
Oh,
Do you value depth in relationship with self? Do you value depth in relationship with others? Because that's the first hurdle to jump
yeah.
over. Because once you declare it as a value within yourself, your cells, your being has to rearrange to uplift or ignore that value. You know,
Mm,
the coaching let me get this thought out. The world and the coaching world and the self-help world really emphasizes, what's the concept that they emphasize? Oh, it was just on the tip of my tongue. Hold on one second. The coaching world and the self-help world really emphasizes like core values. Like, what are your core values? Who are you? Those questions, right?
Yes.
And there's value in examining what your core values are, because your core values serve as your inner compass. And if you tell yourself, Casey, I want to create a meaningful relationship with myself, I want to create a meaningful relationship with every dear friend that I have, then you have to rise to the responsibility and the accountability of taking action behind it. And so
Yes.
that's one of the first things that come up within me is like, check yourself and ask yourself, is this what you really want? Are you willing to work for this? Go ahead.
I would love to give our relationship as an example because right
Mm,
before this conversation of limitless conversations, you asked me, Ali, okay, but why? Like, why are
mm,
we having less conversations? And
mm,
it led me to also, like, I was dealing with a conflict in my life when it came to myself and others moving forward in leadership, which is the, sorry, theme. So
mm,
with you being in my life and this type of relationship that we share as friends, I think we had to do a lot of work on ourselves. And when we did a lot of work on ourselves, we come every time we come together, it's I can't express enough how easeful and how
mm,
much love is present in our friendship. And I try my best. I try my best to take that in with every other person that I commune with, because
mm,
then I'm reminded, like, when I am shown that love and grace and
mm,
that type of friendship, then I know how I can show it to others. And I think
mm.
it's like that idea of leading by example.
For
So
sure.
it's also like you show others how to treat you based on how you treat
Yes.
yourself.
Yes. Ooh, yes. That's a huge, huge reminder, huge gentle reminder. And I'm not sure if and I thank you for sharing, because what's coming up for me now is to illustrate and to emphasize that it always starts with ourselves first. Uncle Michael Jackson, rest in perfect peace. He's talking about the man in the mirror. Literally, you have to work on yourself first if you ever want to see external change. And so to follow, that internal checkpoint of, is this what I really value? I think for me, in terms of the how, is listening, which you mentioned. I'm like, yes, I'm so glad that she mentioned listening to your intuition, because we often have to remind ourselves that we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't know how to be a great friend to ourselves. Sometimes we don't know how to build depth and meaning into relationship with self or into relationships with others. So we can't just press forward and act like we know. We have to stop. We have to pause. We have to slow down. And we have to listen, because
Yeah.
spirit is divine intelligence. And if we have declared, this is important to me, God, this is important to me, spirit, and I want to work on it. And if we slow down and we stop, we will be given opportunities. We will be given the wisdom first and foremost. And then opportunities will present themselves for us to choose different, because life
Yes.
is a series of choices,
Spirit
and
also,
so go
sorry,
ahead.
mean to cut you off there, but Spirit just said a really,
Mm,
like, treat others how you want to be treated is
mm,
the word that came to my mind. And that's
mhm,
something that my mom, I never used to read the Bible, y'all, just being real. And
mm,
when I was younger, my mom just always used to tell me, treat others how you want to be treated. And I
mm.
think that's how I really try to live my life. However, knowing that people don't will not always do the same.
Yes, not expecting them to
But
treat you the way you treat yourself, because they can only treat you as far as they treat themselves. as you know, their limitations is how they treat themselves.
Yeah, and I want to just use a little brief example of like if university, and I had a friend who was the complete opposite to me. And after we
Mm.
were friends, because I realized that wasn't the type of friendship that I wanted, she asked me, how do you do it? I was like, what? What do you mean, how do I do it? She's like, how do you just meet people and people just like you so easily? And how do you make friends so easily? And I just said that simple thing, like, I just treat others how I want to be treated. And I think she was like, oh, damn,
Ashe.
very simple.
Yeah.
And I invite every single person who's listening right now also to
Mm.
ask yourself this question of like, how can I cultivate a deeper, more meaningful relationship with myself so that I
Mm.
can cultivate deeper relationships with others?
Ashe. 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 So well said. Nothing to add. Thank you. Thank you for that anecdote.
Yeah, and also praying on it too. I think prayer is a big thing,
Mm.
like prayer with a love connection or a friendship, asking God, how can I love this person in the way that they need right now?
Mm. Ashe. Ashe. Yeah. I'm glad that you mentioned prayer, um, because what it ignites in me is the reminder that nothing with a foundation of love is done without God.
Yeah.
So you might as well bring source, bring God, bring spirit, bring your ancestors, bring the universe, bring love, bring Reiki into the conversation. Because again, that feeds into, you know, my step two, which is first you check in with yourself, and then secondly, you stop to listen. And if you're praying about it, then God, source, you know, your higher power will be able to communicate to you how best to move forward, or fortify you with the wisdom to move forward. And not even or, we live under a God of abundance, so it's not just or, it is also and so I'm glad that you brought that up. Yeah.
I think also as you're talking, what comes to mind is whenever we're faced with conflict or
Mm,
comfortability or like tension in a friendship or a relationship, it could be familial, it could be romantic. I think sometimes we could be afraid of the outcome, and
mm,
so being able to let go of that and knowing that God and ask God, like, this is something I do whenever I communicate, communication with that person. I say, God, please just use my voice,
mm,
guide my words, like what you said, Casey. And I just say, and then you trust that when you show up with that person, it will go exactly how it needs to. And if it
mm.
doesn't go in the way that you imagined it to, then there's a different plan,
Yeah, that's
right? Like
okay.
maybe, and like forgive yourself. And
Mm,
I think that is a big thing, is forgive that person, forgive yourself. A
understand.
big that was presented to me by another mystic during when I was a young girl. She's like using the name of the person. She says the person's name, I love you. The person's name, I bless you. The person's name, I forgive you. The person's name, and I
Mm,
wish you your highest good. And I swear
mm,
that has been miraculous in
mm,
relationship building.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, nothing to add. Thank you.
I just want to thank every one of you for continuing to commune with us, to share this
Ashe.
space, share this moment, to share this wisdom, because you are also consciousness, and consciousness is moving through you, and we are just the vessels. So, whatever you
Ashe.
need this. We thank you. And also, we're going to move on to part two now.
Mm-hmm.
Before we move on, if you aren't able to join us in part two, I do want to extend the invitation that Casey and I host a soulful session every new moon where we
Mm,
come together and we give guided visualizations, meditations, journal reflection questions, and we also talk about how you can work with the energy of the moon. And
Mm-hmm.
just like we're doing right now, however, we do it in community. So we share in community, we connect with new people around the globe. And if this sounds like something that you are interested in, we please contact us. We will drop in the description below how you can join us for that. Please
Ashe.
find either one of us on Instagram. And if you're not on Instagram, you can send us a little email.
Ashe,
Okay. So,
ashe, ashe.
yes, thank you so much again,
We'll see
and
you in part two.
guiding you to part two and sending love to you all.